What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another panel show for you guys. We've got some hot topics to talk about today, but without further ado, let's introduce our panel. We've got a very grainy Ariane. Ariane, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Hopefully the camera quality gets better over the course of the show, but doing good.
Just stay as still as possible. That's all we need from you today.
Yeah, I've realized that. If I stay still, it's all right.
But
You
Jory,
picked the worst person to try and stay still, too.
we got Jory as well. Perfect camera as always. How you doing, Jory?
Yeah, I mean, my camera ain't grainy, but I'm grainy. I'm an old fuck, so I live with that. Yeah.
Well,
I'm good.
you know,
Good guys.
we all go that way, Jory. We all go that way.
He requested last week to be on, and here we are.
Exactly.
We're here
thank
for
you. I'm honored.
making dreams come true.
Yes, indeed. I'm
Lovely
very
to have you,
honored.
Jory.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, let's get straight into the first topic. And, cast your mind back 2 weeks ago with Antonio Conte did that crazy press conference, that crazy rant on the players, scathing attack on the players. We all thought, Matt, maybe we might see a bit of a reaction from the players after that scathing rant, but we did not see that. So did the players prove Antonio Conte right at the Everton performance? We'll start with you, Jory.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you have to say so, and I would actually go so far to say that actually the first half was the reaction, and we're now at a point where this is what a reaction looks like. This is the level of commitment, energy, skill that a reaction, produces, and then yeah, once again, like I think the most clear thing that was proven in that game was as soon as something, any stakes in the game, they crumbled, and they did it to a level that I don't think any of us, not even the most cynical fans about the squad, thought they would do it in this extreme manner that they actually did it. So yes, I would say it was not only proven, it was hammered home, really.
Yeah. Look, I can't disagree with that. I think absolutely spot on. I think they were completely proved right. But Ariane, what's your thinking behind it? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the players crumpled under the pressure. And, like I said in the pre-match show, sometimes they don't stumble. They fell over. They stumbled. They rolled down the hill. I don't know what other descriptions there are of what happened on Monday. Yeah, I think you can definitely say that these players crumbled under the slightest bit of pressure against Everton, and that pressure being holding a lead against 10-man Everton. There are many lows at this club. This is one of the lowest I've experienced. 10-man Everton fighting for relegation, and I would say we looked like the team that was managed by Sean Dyche, but that would be an insult to Sean Dyche because his team looks so organized. His team always looks so like everyone knows what their job is. All of our players look confused. They look completely lackluster. No one looks like they know what they're doing. They want to be there. They know why they're even there. That's like none of them really look like they have a clue as to what's happening. At least Sean Dyche's team looked like they even wanted to be on the field. At least you could say that, and they proved it up into the 91st minute or whatever. So yeah, I think Conte definitely showed that these players under pressure don't really have the cutting edge. What I think was the notable thing about the press conference, though, and I mean, I know this isn't really part of the question necessarily, but my whole issue with the press conference wasn't necessarily what he said; it's why he said it. Because I don't think he said it out of good faith for Spurs. That's always been my issue with that conference. I think that whole rant was out of self-preservation, and because the thing is, Conte's time at Spurs, it's not been, horrible the whole time or fantastic the whole time. But towards this end, when things have gone wrong, a lot of us point blame at the players, and very rightfully so. But I think one thing Conte really failed to do is acknowledge his own shortcomings, which he did have a lot this season. And it really just seemed to me like that rant was something he was putting in his back pocket for when things went bad, and they did go bad. And he basically pointed fingers at everybody except for himself, and that's just what I didn't appreciate. But I don't think he said anything bad. And I mean, on Monday it got proven everything he said was absolutely spot on. It was more about what he didn't say that kind of stuck with, that kind of irked me. That's been my criticism of that conference. But I mean, everything he said was spot on, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair criticism, to be honest. And I think when you're thinking about the comments and why he said it, to me, I think it's pretty much irrelevant why he said it, because everything he said was still absolutely spot on. So for me, it doesn't really matter for the reasons why or what he did and what he didn't say. But not only for me did it seem like we were the Sean Dyche team and we were playing against a much better side. It also seemed to me when they were down to 10 men, we were the ones down to 9 men, never mind 10 men. It seemed like they were overloading us in areas of the pitch where we had an extra man there. It just didn't make sense to me. But what's your take on this topic, Sim?
Yeah, I think Jory's absolutely right. It wasn't just justify. He didn't just justify Conte's comments. They were doubled down on, I think, on Monday. Now, I think it was an even worse capitulation than the game against Southampton, which Conte was going mad after. In the situation we were in, we were literally gift-wrapped a game. We were literally gift-wrapped 3 points on a play, to be honest. Like, the game fell into our hands. We couldn't have wished to be in a better situation than being... Yeah, we couldn't have wished to being a better, given a silver spoon as well. Like, you couldn't have wished of a better situation to be in than 1-0 up against 10-man Everton team who aren't known for like their good possession football. And yet for the last 20 minutes, we couldn't hold on to the ball for love nor money. And they, as you're absolutely right, they were overloading us. They were outrunning us. We were the ones hoofing the ball clear. Like, we had 10 men and like to no one. And we were like parking the bus and panicking. And we should have been composed, looking for that second goal, seeing the game out, making sure that we kept possession and made Everton come and chase us, as opposed to just hoofing the ball whenever we got it because we were scared of having the ball. And that goes to what exactly Conte was saying about this team not wanting to play under pressure, not wanting to play under stress. They seem to panic. They don't like it. And that's a whole mentality thing, because a lot of the players should be more than good enough to keep possession in that situation. Of course they should. They should have the mentality and the know-how to keep the ball down, calm down when we have possession, just look for the free man. We're the ones with an extra man. Look for the free man each time. And it was unbelievable. It looked like Everton were the ones who had the free man each time instead of us. And it was absolutely crazy. So Conte, for sure, was probably in Italy, had his feet up, had some sunglasses on, smoking a big cigar with a glass of wine in his hand, absolutely vindicated with his comments, because this was, don't get it wrong, this was the Tottenham players had 2 weeks to mull over those words. They had 2 weeks to, a lot of them reacted in the media saying, a lot of them, I know they didn't really come out directly, but, they hinted at, not being happy with what Conte had said. And a lot of them kind of hinting that they thought Conte was wrong and they shouldn't have been called out like that. So they had a long time to think over what he had to say and respond to it. And this was their right of reply in a way. This was their response to what Conte had to say, and this was their chance to show them, look, we're not the problem. Conte was the issue, by and large, and he is absolutely wrong in what he said. And if this was their reply, I mean, it's absolutely laughable that they thought that they thought this was the correct response. I mean, they completely shat the bed. Conte, I heard the commentators on the commentators were kind of, in a way, blaming Conte for this happening, because they were saying that Conte hammered home the message so much that maybe the players started to believe it. But I don't.
Should start to believe it. Because 100%.
It's absolutely exactly. And look, I don't think Stellini helped the situation, because I do think his substitutions definitely spread the negativity around the team. When he should have been making subs to go for the second goal and kill off the game, he was kind of almost making subs to make sure that we're battening down the hatches and like negative subs, basically. Now, the Sanchez sub was basically because they were looking more and more dangerous from set pieces, and Sanchez is probably a more physical player than Longley. But then what happened was Sanchez got the ball and just continuously gave it away and put us under pressure.
You're trying to build out the back. You're trying to keep the ball, and you bring on Davinson Sanchez. I mean, where is the logic in that? That must be one. That must be one of the worst substitutions in history. Seriously.
Yeah.
That is on par with Lucas Bergwijn for Lucas. That is on par.
Go on, Jory.
I mean, Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, the logic should be Clement was, Longley was on a yellow card and stuff like that, which would be logical if you were presented with a choice other than Davison Sanchez. You know,
I'd
if
rather play
that's
with
your choice,
Penman.
you take your chance with the yellow card,
Right.
you know, and just drive the game out, you know. But I would like to also comment in terms of Arian saying Conte kind of self-preservation. I do agree with that in some way, but the way I don't quite see it as self-preservation, even though I do absolutely see it as Conte putting distance between him and the board and the squad mainly. But at the same time, he closed the distance between him and the fans like us who are really bleeding for the bats. I felt Conte put himself in the camp of the bats, which is a minority fan base, I feel like now, and Conte, and that's it. You know, the rest we've talked about it many times. It's about maybe the commercialization of the culture and all of that. I don't want to go into that, but I felt like Conte, yes, was brand preserving, but I also know Conte is past. Like when Conte is Tottenham, he is definitely all in with the bats. He doesn't give himself any excuses in that way. And so I felt there was a little bit more. That was kind of the dividing line that I saw, because he definitely didn't put distance between me, I think, as a fan, and himself. You know, actually, he said he took the fight and said, "I deserve, me as a fan deserve better than this. You guys that pay the season tickets deserve better," and so on. You know, and this is standing gripe with you know, we've been saying it for years. You know, so I feel like, and I'm sure that Conte at some point will be happy to acknowledge his own failures in it. But that's the kind of guy he is. At that moment, he needed to do that call out, I feel, and he did it the right way. But I won't disagree with the brand preservation. But I mean, you know, there's nothing to preserve a brand like winning endless titles, like this guy has done. You know, so there's really no argument to be had. He's a winner. This club has proven a 20 years losing culture. You know, so we don't need really to spend too much time on it. But yeah, it was definitely. You know, talk about prophetic words. Those were prophetic words for sure. You know, so
Just to elaborate on that point, to ask Aaron a question: is it ever okay, under any circumstance, for a manager to be be in self-preservation mode, or is it always wrong in any situation?
Okay, well, when you put it like that, then I'm never gonna give absolutes, because that could, if I say, oh, never or always, then that's always gonna get put into some
I'm
weird
trying to put you in a corner, Ariane.
you know, situation I didn't mean. But I think what Conte did, my issue with what Conte did, and here, and Jory mentioned that like he felt like he closed the distance between him and fans. I kind of see that as like you taking the bait, right? Because what Conte did as part of his whole self-preservation scheme was, look, the thing is, Conte was not the problem at Spurs. We all know what the problem at Spurs is. None of us need to sit here and because all four of us know exactly what the problem at Spurs is. But a problem at Spurs is a myriad of things. It's certain players, it's certain board members, it's certain coaches, coaching staff, medical staff. There's a bunch of things. Conte was a problem. That's what I wholeheartedly believe. He was a problem. For a myriad, it was not even all that was down to his fault, but he was a problem. It was a bad fit. Pretty much every single journalist used the exact same words as an unhappy marriage, which I found kind of weird, but all of them pretty much said that, and it was. The reason for that is because Conte has tactics that don't work with the fan base typically, and he has methods that don't work with this squad of players, and they don't, especially this season. This season especially, we've looked far worse than we did last season, and that is because Conte has done certain things that just haven't fit the squad. His fitness approach has caused us multiple injuries, and we are feeling that right now, especially with the death of Jean-Pierre Mentron, who was working with Conte for 18 years mitigating these problems, especially ever since his death. That's really when our season fell apart, because you have not only like the moral weight of that, you have literally the physiological weight of having the one of the most experienced sports coaches under physical coaches under Conte, not know how to control Conte's squad fitness-wise, and instead of managing the squad, Conte ran these players into the ground, and we have players like Basuma who have a stress fracture. We have players like Bentancur who did their ACL, and ACLs are likelier if you're fatigued. You have Lloris who had a knee problem as well. You had Emerson who got injured at international break. You have a lot of these injuries that could have maybe been prevented if Conte maybe rotated the squad a little bit more, crying out for a forward option all summer and getting Richarlison. We fucking barely used them after Sonny's been dropping disaster class after disaster class after disaster class. So there's things that Conte just didn't do that were not acknowledged by him, and that's something that really was my issue, because he did things wrong and he never took responsibility for them. He never, like with Richarlison, he was just like, oh, he'll play when he plays, and he played him next game and he was fucking brilliant. So it's like, it's like it's kind of you're shooting yourself in the foot there when you're saying, oh, he's not ready, and then it turns out next game he's ready. What a brilliant coincidence that is. And also another thing that's flying, and he's saying these players don't like to play under pressure. All of us know these players have crumbled under pressure many, many, many times during our time as supporting this club. They've Champions League final, Carabao Cup final, pretty much any semifinal. There's been a lot of moments where these players have crumbled under the pressure. But last season we were under immense pressure for pretty much ever since Conte was in, and we performed brilliantly to get fourth place. That's the fact. We were sensational in Conte's run-in. We picked up the third most points behind Liverpool and City, who basically didn't lose a game the whole time. We were excellent. These players played under that pressure to their credit at that time.
No,
there was, and the difference personnel-wise was minimal.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just going to say there was also a period that our back line, for example, played the best it's done in years. And for me, I really can't put that anywhere other than Conte's methods and himself. That was Conte getting this squad to overperform to a level that we haven't seen for years. In terms of the injuries and stuff like that, I can see your point. But I would just point to Mourinho's tenure, and it was a similar story there, So I think it's more to do with the squad and the medical staff and just the general operations in the club than the actual manager. Mourinho was famously too lax on the conditioning and the strength training and stuff like that. And of course, we know Conte will always be hardcore in that manner. So I'm not going to argue that Basuma has had these problems because of it or not. I can easily imagine that, but I'm saying it's a big assumption to say that the whole injury crisis is down to Conte's way of working, because we had just as big an injury crisis under Mourinho, and Mourinho was like almost the opposite in terms of fitness and stuff like that, So I think that if you have to put it on something other than the players themselves, I think it's more likely to have a lot to do with our medical department and how we monitor these issues and just something in our workflow that's not really all right, So
it's not the job of the medical department to keep players fit. It's to recover them.
But they monitor their potential injuries and stuff like that, and so on.
But going on to your point about Mourinho's injury crisis, that was really entirely different in nature to what Conte's suffering. Kane got injured because he had been on a run of seasons that he'd been getting injured every single season for about 4 years, and he got a new physio at that time. That was entirely independent of what Mourinho did. Son broke his arm. That's just, what can you do?
No, he broke his
as a result of that, we had
year. That's the same, That has nothing to do with Conte either.
Yeah, same thing. But that's not what I was referring to. I didn't use Son as an example when I was talking about Conte's injury crisis. I used Emerson. I used Basuma. I used the Bentancur. I used I didn't use Davies, but Davies. You have Son got two pretty unlucky bone injuries. So he broke his arm, and Kane had been getting injured every season, and that caused us to have a very because we never had good depth in forward. We had to start Lucas and Bergwijn every single game, and Lamela and Dele, and you're playing the same players in an 11 with Mourinho not having the option to rotate. His hand was forced into running these players into the ground. On the opposite side, Conte has depth in his squad, and he refuses to use it, and that's why our players are getting ran into the ground. We had a lot of players that we could have used this season, like Brian Hill, like Sarr, who's still barely getting minutes after being brilliant pretty much every time he's been on. I mean, I'm not going to use Spence. Let's be honest here. But and we had I'm just going to use those two right now, Sarr and Hill. That's two players. Like if Sarr got more minutes, would Bentancur be hurt right now? Who knows? Probably maybe not. Right? If Hill got minutes with Son and Kulusevski performing at a higher level, maybe. But or Richarlison even. If Richarlison played a bit more, would Kulusevski and Son have earned those spots and played a little bit better? Maybe. But Conte refused to do this, ran these players into the ground, and we have all these injury problems. And I was going back to what I was saying last season. You were saying Conte did something last season.
I don't agree with the whole
we can maybe
refuse to use players narrative. I think what Conte was trying to do and is always trying to do is to basically teach the first 11 exactly what he wants out of them. We were not there. They were still not even close to being graduated from the Conte Academy, So then he uses all the time. He himself said, we need to have a bigger squad. We need to upgrade the whole squad. We need to be rotating to be able to compete on all these in all these competitions. I think once you're still struggling with the first 11, and Conte's method and idea is to get them physically and experience-wise up to scratch. He does that by putting them on the field again and again and again, and might be, for those particular players, might be too much stress. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just saying Conte is just operating from his Conte manual, which has proven successful endless times, and I don't agree that he would keep out Jill or Danjuma or whoever. I think eventually, once the first 11 is settled and it simply just works like a Conte machine works, then he moves on to the next part of the squad and starts working on them. We saw that actually with, this is one of the big part of Emerson's miraculous progression, was that once Doherty wasn't an option anymore, he put all the effort into Emerson, and we saw a huge
Emerson's revival came under Porro when he had competition.
Yes, Porro came in, but before Porro came in, we saw Emerson definitely do huge strides. We saw I predicted this on this show. I said, I think now that we don't have Doherty, I think Conte is going to put a lot of work into Emerson to simply try and get it to another level, because it needs to be that. And then Porro came a little bit later, and of course the competition, I'm sure that lifts it even more. Let's hope so. That's the point of having two good players in every spot and all of that, But I simply, this is the way I see it. I'm not disagreeing with your assessment as such. I just see it as the first 11 was so far from being a finished project. So Conte is putting all the time, effort, and priority into working with the first 11. Once that's in a settled state, then he moves on to the rest of the squad, This is what he's done in other clubs, but he's usually gotten so big budgets to spend in the first window and stuff like that he gets much further with the first 11 quicker than he did here, So
I'm really not sure. Here's my problem with that whole assessment is that we did look like a finished product last season.
Yeah,
we looked like a proper Conte oiled machine. So I really am interested in knowing how a team can go from the third best team in the league in pretty much every metric stat-wise you can imagine, whether it be points per game, goals scored, and goals assists, like a proper football's played on grass, view, or if you want to get technical, look at expected goals, expected this, expected that, whatever. By any metric you can imagine, last season we looked twice the team we looked this season.
For sure.
So I want to know what that steep drop-off is when the only addition to the starting 11 was a Conte player in Ivan Perisic.
Well,
That's the only addition we had to our starting 11 from last season to this season.
Yeah, I think, 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 I think But I would
Well,
say
in a way, Ariane, that addition in a way kind of. Yeah, it was a Conte addition, but what it did to the team, if you think about it, is Sessegnon and Reguilon were much more defensive players, but that's not what he wants. He wants his wing backs to be very offensive. What that's going to do is expose the back line even more, and that's essentially what happened when we put in a Perisic like that. He was obviously doing okay going forward, but he's a bit of a defensive liability, which he's been in all his teams. Yeah. But you need a strong defensive line that can cope with that, and we just didn't have that, and that led to a big decline. Maybe
just bad management.
Like I would say in terms of tactics, this is the same problem, even whether it be Pott's tactics or the many different flavors that Mourinho brought into. As always, when you have a slow, inept backline, they're not fast enough and they can't keep the ball. And they can't pass. They're not great passers either. Dyer, when he gets time, he's all right on the long passes, but that's about it, And of course, Romero is the exception. But when that's your defense, almost all successful tactics are gonna fall down, because you constantly have to protect this back line. You have to double up with your midfield. You got to bring your wing backs back if you're playing a wing-back system and so on, So I really, for me, you could argue it's a chicken and egg situation, but for me, it's like the egg has been cracked a long time ago, and it's spilled out there's no egg to be had here. There's only the chicken, and the chicken is all right. We need to get a new egg, and then we can start arguing, is it our brilliant players or is it our elite manager? But we're not arguing that. We have an elite manager, and we've had many now. For me, Potts is borderline elite. He needs the silverware, but in terms of how he works, he's definitely one of the top managers out there.
The best of the three.
Well, I feel that way, but who's gonna tell me that our squad is world-class elite or league winning or Champions League winning? They're not there, so we can agree on that. So so for me, it's a little bit, why are we trying to solve the problem of a shit squad by changing an elite manager? Why are we not just facing the facts that we need at least a really good squad for this elite manager?
And that's why the kind of abuse or the criticisms from the fan base on the managers don't really sit right with me, because it's the same kind of things that we're seeing over and over again, and it's the same kind of criticisms from the fan base that we're hearing over and over again for different particular managers. So whether Conte doesn't come out of this like a complete angel. Obviously he's done things wrong, and obviously his management wasn't completely perfect in this season because of what we went through. But the fact of the matter is, I think that maybe he got lulled into a bit of a false sense of security with the defence, how they did perform in the back end of last season, and maybe he thought he could reproduce that this season. But we all know as fans that these defenders are always going to revert back to type after initially performing well. So I think that I don't understand why people are just going to solely just point the finger on Antonio Conte when we all know what the actual real issues are here.
This is like, in terms of how we ended last season, I've said it many times, I'm Icelandic. All our teams perform in it this way exactly. They get up for it, they get psyched, and they overperform to a crazy level, but that cannot be sustained. It falls up really quickly, and we never get it done. We're still proud of them. We love them. We're really happy for the passion and all of that. This is not an option in these top-level competitions. You need to have sustained quality through many seasons, many competitions, each season. So this is not an option. This is why we see these really big improvements like last season and stuff like that. We saw improvement with Mourinho as well and so on. For me, once again, it's there's a good argument to be made that Conte and Tottenham was such a bad match. It's such opposites in culture, and approaches, which is true. But when Conte came in, we were kind of fed up after Jose and Potts, that some of us realized, and I think we probably had a conversation about it, Sim and Ben, that this is exactly what Tottenham needs. This is exactly the type of force, this type of a powerful individual we need to come in and change the culture that has failed us with these other managers throughout the years, and so that was the whole idea. We weren't going to evolve our club and squad. We were going to revolutionize our club and squad with Paratici and Conte together. That was the hope. That was why I said this is exactly what Tottenham needs, and I still stand on it. Conte and what Conte's message and what he wanted to try and do is still what Tottenham needs, which is the hard love. But
we don't want to hear it.
No, we're such spoiled brats that we just run to mommy, and mommy makes the bad man go away. And we're not no more mature for it, So back to square one we go, So yeah.
I think Rory Jennings put it really well when Conte first joined Spurs. He said, "We're now going to see what's stronger, Conteism or Spursism." And
exactly.
I think we found out our answer pretty quickly.
We found out for sure, and I was convinced myself that Conte was too much of a force, because I thought also Conte would simply his presence and his CV would put Levy in such a corner that there was no way around it. But here we go, and when you have the staff, squad, and Levy basically colluding together to keep this cozy mediocrity culture, then I don't think there's no manager that's going to change that. I'm sorry, So that's how I see it, at least, So
all right, well,
who's going to do it, So.
That's also a very good point there. But look, let's move on. Go to our next topic. And with Conte gone, we've got Stellini and Mason in charge for the rest of the season. After the football that we did show on Monday night at Everton, the question is, should we stick with Stellini now for the rest of the season, or should we be looking for another interim to be coming in from now to the end of the season? I mean, I'm looking at it, and I know I said otherwise when we were appointing Stellini, but my mind is completely clear now, and my mind is saying that if you're going to sack Conte, and if the players are going to complain about his football, why the hell do you bring in his number 2 that is going to play the exact same football just to a lesser level? We'll start with you, Ariane.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, I said it in the post-match press conference. It makes no sense to bring a less experienced Conte to replace Conte. It's just... The tactics will be no different. The methods will be no different. The solutions will be worse at best. I don't understand the only thing I could only imagine is if Conte just went around hitting all these players and saying, "You're all shit," and Stellini was just a little nice guy, good cop, bad cop kind of situation. Right? That's the only thing, and I know that's not what happened. So it's a PR move, is what it is. To all the fans, oh look, Conte's gone, and I think I'm the only one here who was happy to really genuinely see Conte go, and I'm completely dissatisfied because it's a stupid thing to do, to bring Conte out and say, all right, cool, let's change nothing for the next 10 games, and we won't, by the way. Like, even if Nagelsmann knocks on our door tomorrow, we're gonna do our due diligence and wait so we don't have to pay Bayern as much compensation, probably.
But forget Nagelsmann for a second. I'm not talking about Nagelsmann. I'm talking about someone like Ryan Mason. I mean, would you take Ryan Mason from now to the end of the season? Because I would.
I would take you over Stellini, dude. Let alone Ryan Mason. So
my football manager CV is unmatched.
We know.
Of course, I've seen enough FIFA career mode. I'm convinced. I've seen enough Ben Simeone.
No, you don't need to see that. Football
club.
Manager. You need to get Football Manager. 6 years in a row, Champions League winner.
Oh my god, I wish. Yeah, look, generally, the Stellini appointment was so stupid. It was so I don't understand any logic behind it. To appoint Conte's number 2, same tactics, same football, same methods, same training, same everything. If the players are so sick of the training and the methods of the football, why not change them? You're just changing the guy who has more experience on how to fix problems. You have Conte, who's had these problems. He was almost sacked after his first year at Inter Milan. He was in the same situation he was at Spurs at Inter Milan after his first year. I don't know if anyone knows, and he fixed it. And so you're gonna sack him before you can fix it. This is a guy who knows at least how to fix it. I trust him more than I trust Stellini.
Yeah.
Stupid.
What kind? Doesn't it send the message?
Do we expect anything more though?
You're keeping his whole backroom staff around. You're keeping his assistant manager in, and you're sacking the manager. So you're implying like, what do we need a manager for? Just keep the whole system there. We don't need a manager. We don't need the manager. We'll just keep the whole backroom staff, and everything will be fine.
Don't worry, we don't have Conte, but we've got Conte's system. Ridiculous. Jory, what's your take on this one?
Well, I think, guys, you're underestimating the real issue here. Levy is fucking sinking. You know, the amount of issues that needs to deal with right away, the amount of fires he needs to put out, it has never been more, in my view. And simply just being able to send the Italians offering to stay and do the job is simply leave it. Just all right. That's I can now try and focus on these things here. Getting a new manager, getting a women's manager, getting somebody to do the sporting directions, and Kane's contract. You name it. You know, the potential investments that's supposed to come in and whatever is on. So I think it's just scrambling, headless reaction. That being said, like I feel sorry for Stellini to be in this role. I think he's made a little bit of a mistake of actually accepting it. But I think because I think Stellini will eventually turn it. Like I'm sure we'll see him do fine things in the Italian league at some point or whatever. For me, Mason, you're solidifying everything that's wrong in Spurs. It's all about the maidism and the cozy talks in the cantina and so on, So I never want to see Mason. I basically just think it's a question of damage control out the season. I do think that Levy is completely delusional, stupid, to be honest, if he thinks he has a chance at top 4 and letting Conte go, even with all the animosity and whatever. With our only chance at top 4, no new manager, no Nagelsmann, nothing like that. And forget all these names, nothing. Nuno will be a luxury that we can't afford after this. The only thing I see is maybe Levy bribing at Brendan Rodgers or something like that. And that's it. Nobody with any ambition in football is going to touch this club now the next couple of years. That's my prediction here and now. You can put money on it. But yeah, for me, it's just about getting to that end of the season with the least amount of damage. If, like I said, if Levy thought he had any chance of top 4 without Conte, it's yet another testament to his ignorance around the football. For me, I don't particularly care about top 4. I know even with Champions League football, we won't attract whatever Nagelsmann. I see 2 names maybe. Brendan Rodgers and Potter is like the 2 names that I could see would take that bribe. Potter is really, really hurt. His brand is really in a bad place right now. So I see him maybe catching or grabbing onto that. And Brendan Rodgers, I see it wouldn't be the worst fit from his point of view. I mean, for us, I think it's going backward by quite a lot. Not that I don't rate Brendan. I don't rate him. I don't not rate him. I just think he's almost like a Premier League type fixture. You're not going up or down. You're just basically status quo type appointment, I would say. But I would say in terms of Stellini and Ryan Mason, it's the thing that's going to happen now, guys. It's every time they capitulate like they did against Everton and Southampton, for each time the squad does that, they will become more self-conscious. They will be quicker to do it. It will be more catastrophic. They will have less kind of fighting spirit to try and resist that, And I do see that now, rather than Stellini actually, shouting some steel into them. It's going to be the other way around. I think the squad is going to erode Stellini's natural confidence, and Ryan Mason, he's a part of that squad culture anyway. So, he's not going to add or subtract anything from it, So yeah, I completely agree with Arian. It's an awful situation. I do agree. What's the point of letting Conte go and keeping everything that is Conte without his direction? You can only hope for. It's only going to be less, as a simple logical equation. Having a Conte squad staff without Conte is less than having one with Conte. So
yeah,
that's an obvious thing, So, but I do think that our club in the boardroom is in such crisis that Levy is just trying to get through every day right now, and this is one of the ways of solving a huge issue for him. Otherwise, he's got everything in place, and we can keep rolling. But it will snowball before the season's over. I'm sure of that. So.
All right. Any more comments on that one, or shall we move on?
Yeah, no, I just want to say I agree with the guys that I don't see the point if the players are not on board with how Stellini wants to play. I don't see the point in moving forward with it and continuing in that way. If they want a fresh approach, then have a point of fresh approach. There's no point in everyone being sick of Conte and the way he plays, and apparently players were on their hands and knees begging him to let the shackles off and playing attacking football, and then sacking him and just putting a guy who helped Conte devise the plan in charge. It doesn't make any sense to me. You might as well go just really fresh, and someone like Mason who at least play attacking football. And look, I think you can kiss top four goodbye anyway, so there's no point. At least Conte, with his mentality, despite the fact that the player, he was alienating the players and all this kind of stuff, at least we know even this season we saw it. As much as the football was bad and all that kind of stuff, he was still getting results. He was still getting, still in the top four. Yeah. Whatever you want to say about it, he was still getting. He wasn't getting performances, but he was still able to get results. And whether and once
that's what differentiates the boys from the men, is exactly that.
And once, look, if you're going to sack him with no plan in place of someone to come in, then you're kissing top four goodbye anyway. So you might as well just bring in a completely fresh approach and a new way of playing, rather than continuing the old quote stale way of playing that the players aren't on board with. It doesn't make sense anymore. But it's a weird thing though at the moment. Like in the Premier League, there does seem to be this tendency right now to at the most crucial part in the season with 10 games to go. I think I can count in the Premier League around 7 clubs who've opted to go with an interim manager for the last most important part of the season, rather than stick with the manager who they've been trusting with for most of the season. You got Southampton, Leicester, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, Chelsea, and Spurs all going with interim managers pretty much from now to the end of the season, and it's like a pretty crazy scenario. I don't know why it's like nearly half the Premier League have decided to do this. Obviously, that everyone's going for that new manager bounce, but
it's the interim epidemic.
Yeah, it really is. There's never been a better time to be an interim manager than right now in the Premier League. But
what a time to be an interim!
Unbelievable. But it's pretty crazy. I wonder what is causing this. Like, it does seem specific to this season, doesn't it? This interim epidemic.
Well, it's a record, isn't it? Premier League record that no more managers have lost their job ever in a Premier League season than this.
Yeah, but has there ever been a case like this season where so many clubs are just sacking without a plan in terms of appointing new managers?
I think it is a bit of, like you said, it is a bit of the boards just rolling the dice. Let's see if we can get a bit of a bounce and get some extra point that way. But more often than not, that will backfire badly. So yeah, it's weird. I agree. It's very weird.
Ariane, did you want to say something?
No, I think I was just gonna say, like, as someone who wanted Conte out, right? I didn't want to make what Conte had worse. I wanted literally the whole thing out, right? So it just doesn't make sense. Like, you have like something that I don't like. And I want something different. Don't give me the same thing but worse. That's ridiculous. If you like, let's say I have like an Android phone and I have like a Samsung, like, I don't know what Samsung are we on, 20, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want a Samsung 10. I want an iPhone, right?
Course,
you know what I mean? Like, it's I don't understand like the way we're approaching it. It's
For me also,
yeah,
I would.
people who are running clubs for
basically-
20 years and they can't.
Basically, what we just done is we've just bought a really expensive Armani jacket, we've returned it, and then bought the alternative from Wish. That's what we've just done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
if
also-
Stellini can't manage those last 20 minutes, as much as the players need to take responsibility to how he played at Everton, if Stellini can't manage that situation, calm the players down, get them composed, and get them to see out that kind of game, then how is he ever gonna be able to get us to where we want to for the last 10 games? How is he ever gonna ride the players?
And for me, one of the
There's
worst
element
things,
to it.
actually, guys, is like someone that's been in the "let's wake up" fans camp. Like, we can't get anywhere without dealing with the Levy issue kind of approach. For me, it's really awful, because now the narrative becomes, well, it's still Conte football. We can still deflect from the squad, from the players, from the culture, from the board. Which is like it always amazes me how the manager out crowd can find new ways of deflecting from this freaking issue that I think all of us here understands that at minimum it needs to be addressed on the same level that manager and squad needs to be addressed. For me, it needs to be addressed more than anything else. But so, and I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm hearing pundits saying, well, it's just Conte, again, and it's still, they haven't gotten rid of Conte really, and so on, So, which I also feel is disrespectful for Stellini, because, I mean, Stellini and Conte football in general is not something that's very specific. It's very Italian football. So we shouldn't be surprised about it. Conte is just a master of Italian football. Stellini, of course, will be Italian football. He's spent his whole life in Italian football. Of course, he's going to be Italian football. He's not going to all of a sudden go into like gegenpress or whatever, you might be hoping for. That's not the person he is, So at least we can all agree on this is a half-assed approach once again, and it's not serving anybody. It's not making anybody happy. So, yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
All right. Well, let's move on. Jory actually did touch on it when he was responding at first to the last question, but can Spurs still attract a top manager? Obviously, we did attract Conte and Mourinho to the club post Pochettino, but have we burnt too many bridges now? Do you think we can still attract a top manager? We'll start with you, Ariane.
Look, this question is tricky in nature, because what's a top manager? Like, are you gonna say someone like on the same caliber of serial winner as top manager? I don't think any serial winner wants to touch Daniel Levy anymore. But in my eyes, that's not what a top manager is. In my eyes, I want someone that we can build with, someone maybe in the Pochettino mold a little bit more, right? Because Pochettino, I think, at any time would be happy to come back to the club. But I think there's also other coaches similar to Pochettino that I think would definitely come to Spurs. Postecoglou at Celtic is one. Arne Slot is a great
He's not a top
coach.
manager.
These are... No, they're not. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is where you're getting it.
Oh. Is he gone?
Everything all right, Ariane?
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I'm good. It's just that it's spring break, and my grandpa was asking me if I'm going to school.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Are you going to school?
No, it's spring break and he's on stream. That's it.
No, it's spring break. Anyways, where I was, this is where the trick is for what's the top manager. A top manager is different in anybody's eyes. In my eyes, I want someone who I can build a project with, and I would consider people like Slot, people like De Zerbi, people like Postecoglou, people like Graham Potter. These are coaches that I would consider top coaches. I think they're coaches that I'd be very happy with. I think the only one coach that I think fits both the serial winner mold and the project manager mold that everybody's been on the boat of is Nagelsmann. And that is only for his last resort is he ever going to come to us. And that's going to be very tricky with so many clubs that are probably going to be looking for a coach this summer. But hey, I think it depends kind of what you think a top manager is. But with what my definition of a top manager is, I think of course we can. I think we can attract someone like even just Pochettino himself. But there are people who are in the Pochettino, like I said, Postecoglou, Slot, Potter. There are coaches that I would really happily take. That I think would be happy to come to Spurs. Yes, I would say yes.
But Ariane, just just to play the other side, we're hearing like loads of reports at the moment, from Ali Gold saying Spurs put feelers out to De Zerbi, and he said due to the uncertainty at Spurs right now, he wouldn't come to us. Pochettino reportedly has reservations due to the uncertainty around Tottenham, and no one knows what direction we're going. And Nagelsmann as well prefers Chelsea to Tottenham because the mess Tottenham are in right now. So when you're looking at like our position in terms of like how much is up in the air, as Jodri said before, like how much uncertainty there is, why would anyone join that unless they know what direction we're going in?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be, like for Nagelsmann, you said like you have Chelsea who are just such a much more stable and well-run club, and then us who are the antithesis of that. Yes, we are a mess and we're being run horrendously, and yes, managers will have their reservations, and I think there is also some questions that are going to be had about really the reliability of asking De Zerbi if he's willing to switch jobs while being in a crucial run-in with Brighton. I mean, even if he's super interested, I don't think he's ever going to come out and say, oh, hell yeah, I'll come to Spurs in 3 weeks, pack my bags. Like, that just won't happen. So there is also that way I have to factor in. But generally, yes, I think to answer your questions more specifically instead of avoiding it, managers are going to have the reservations because of just how poorly run we are. But as your grandpa said, this is not only Daniel Levy's biggest crisis, it's also his biggest opportunity. So if he's able to convince a manager that we have a direction to go in, if he's able to convince any manager that we have a direction to go in, I think we are able to attract a manager just because it's going to be difficult, yes, but it's also going to be an opportunity to set a direction because we've been going downward for about 5 years now. It's not impossible to rebuild anything. And so maybe this is the time where we do build the direction. So yeah, I'm still going to say.
But Tottenham themselves don't know what direction they want to go in. How can they convince a manager of it when they don't know themselves?
I mean, we've been traveling down a confused path for about 5 years. But I think generally, with the names of the coaches that have been coming out and what we're interested in, you have Nagelsmann, Enrique, Pochettino, Slot, who I mentioned. I think there's some reports about Postecoglou. What other managers have we really been linked to, right? About 5. De Zerbi, sorry. The direction has changed from someone like a Tuchel or someone like what's his name at Juventus?
Allegri,
right? Or Conte and Mourinho. You have a lot of these serial winners, and those aren't really the names that are appearing on our short lists. And I think that is one indicator of the direction we want to go in. I think we've kind of realized this serial winner shtick does not work at Spurs for one reason or another. I think that is at least the base of beginning to look in some kind of direction. And I think Spurs are kind of aware that they need to rebuild something, whether they like it or not, because Kane is turning 31 years old. Son is 30 already. Son is 30 already and Kane is turning 30. So we need to do something. And I think to Levy's credit, something that I very rarely give him, the coaches that have been linked to Spurs and shortlisted are coaches that I think are a step in the right direction in terms of what we should do as a club. And so I think that is kind of a base. Yes, we can build a direction off that. Yes, we have a massive problem because our director of football is not legally allowed to do his job. Our
That's
coach
the big
is
thing for me.
a assistant coach, and our women's team, right? But you know that those are problems that can and hopefully will be addressed. That's what I'm saying. If they are addressed in time, and you can convince a coach that you can build this club up with them, I'm sure someone like Arne Slot is not gonna stick at Feyenoord and say, I'm just using him as an example because I think it's an easy one to kind of paint the picture of how I can. Like, I think it's easy to realize that Arne Slot would trade Feyenoord for the Premier League top 6. He would.
Right, but let's say Arne,
And
let's
if you
say
can
Slot,
convince
let's say
him
Slot comes
that,
in for an interview tomorrow. What's his first question? His first question was, "What's the strategy of
Right.
of the football club?" And how can we answer that while Paratici is suspended and waiting for appeal? How can we answer that question?
we don't necessarily. I mean, you're saying he comes in tomorrow in the midst
I'm
of a
asking
crisis.
just for
He's
example,
likely
yeah.
going to come in the summer where we're going to have time. No, I know, but I'm saying I think it's more appropriate to answer your question in the context that we've had 2 months to try and coast our way out of a crisis and kind of get an idea of what we want to do, because we haven't even interviewed any coaches yet, and I think that's for good reason, because we have to feel ourselves out as a club. So I think it's more appropriate to kind of think, all right, let's pretend it's the last game of the season, and next week we're going to be interviewing coaches. Maybe by then we'll have some kind of an idea of what direction we want to go in. And I'm not saying we will, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't, but I'm saying it's possible. That's what I'm saying, basically.
Sounds like
And
to me
because
another
it's possible,
72
it's
days without a
doable.
manager, to be honest.
I think maybe, yeah, it's possible, but it's also possible that that doesn't happen. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that this isn't a crisis that Daniel Levy can't fix, but it could be one he won't fix. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's
I get it.
possible to fix this, and there is the opportunity present to build something. Whether we do it or not is an entirely other thing. But yes, we can attract another class coach. Yes, I think we can.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because when you're looking at the master manipulator that is Daniel Levy, you know, he brings in these managers to the boardroom, probably the best boardroom in the country, best training ground. They have a look at the facilities. They walk into the stadium. They're like, wow, this club is really ready to explode. You know, they've got everything set in place. And it manipulates people's minds, thinking, you know, they can come here and they can actually do a job. I think it definitely manipulated Mourinho. I think Conte still had his reservations, but I think these things, it's like the fuse is going down and down and down and down and down, and suddenly it's going to hit a head where, you know, no top manager is going to want to come here unless we do change our ways. And I think we can still attract someone, but I think the likes of, you know, of the kind of levels of Conte and Mourinho and those kind of levels of manager, I don't think are interested in coming here anymore after seeing how we've burnt Mourinho and Conte. And I think obviously we're going to have to look for the level down. And I think the level down, the probably top of that level down is Pochettino. And, you know, we're hearing that he has reservations. And I think we're going to end up with someone like a Potter or a Rodgers. And you know what? I actually like Rodgers as a manager, and I think he's a very good manager. And I think that, you know, you said, Jory, before that he's kind of like a standard Premier League manager, but I actually think that's doing him a bit of a disservice. So I think that he's better than that, and I think he punched above his weight when he was at Liverpool going for a title there, fell short at the end. Punched above his weight going for top 4 consistently in 2 years running with Leicester, fell short, yes, but he did get over the line and win an FA Cup there as well, which is the first FA Cup in their history. So you got to say that they're
I
good
don't
achievements.
disagree with that, actually. I do think he's above average for sure. I don't mean it more as an average. I just mean like if you have a need that is, I'm a Premier League club and I want to be some kind of contention as a Premier League club, he's a good fit. But if you have a need that says I'm a Premier League club or I'm a European Cup and I need to win stuff, he's not the right fit really for me in that way. Even though I'm not gonna say it's impossible or anything, but he's not a kind of a sure solution for that, or you know, he's not.
I don't think anyone is at
this
this club. No one is at this club.
No, and then you bring in the lens of our club, you know, and I would go like I love most of the names that you mentioned, Arian, as project managers, and like for me in the Premier League, obviously De Servi is showing amazing stuff, you know, and really exciting manager, you know. So okay, we bring, let's say, you know, we convince him, even though he's already said he's got reservation. We bring him in, pay the release clause. He comes in. We're doing a project. Where's the scouting? Oh, there's no fucking scouting. Yeah. Okay. Where's the sporting director and the direction? Yeah, we have a suspended Italian sporting director who's straight out of the Conte school of football or classic Italian football. You know, this like okay. So that's pretty hopeless, I think. Even though that's probably somewhere along the line we need to go. We go the other way. Levy goes decides that he needs to save his life and get a big name in, you know, and we get a big name in. Let's say Ancelotti takes us over Brazil, you know, quits Madrid and takes us over Brazil, you know. Okay, let me see my budget, you know. Oh, Levy wants to look at what's going to be available in the market and what, like, it doesn't work either way we go, you know. And so, you know, I'm not trying, like I'm sure a guy like Sean or whatever who loves to argue with us, Levy outers, you know, he will say I'm trying to shoehole it into this argument. No, guys, you cannot show me a path to success with Levy in his current role. You can't show me that. But I do think once that's out of the way, I do think it's probably closer to the project way. And I do think we would be more than blessed and should kiss our lucky stars if a Pochettino was to take a second punt at it. I don't think, I've heard many reports as well as Levy's turning Pochettino down, you know. So I think Pochettino, I hope, yeah. So I hope that Pochettino is not that so romantic and loves us that much, which we know he does, that he's, you know, deciding stuff beyond what he should, like what his sense should tell him to decide. Because if you have any sense now, Poch, you stay away now. You don't come in now, because this period that we're going into is doomed to failure. The only success I see now for the next 2 years is a clear out and a changing, like laying the groundworks for whatever philosophy then comes in after that. You know, we simply need to keep clearing out these squad players, and we need to clear out a lot of staff, I think, as well. We need to build the scouting network, so on. You know, we need to do the hard work now, and it's going to be
pathways to the academy as well. Very important.
Exactly, and as much as we don't like looking at our neighbors these days, you know, and all of their success, they actually have kind of the blueprint for what we need to do as a club, really, you know, which is what Arsenal have been doing, you know. So as much as I didn't believe it, didn't see it just last year even, I see it now, and I do see that what they were doubling down on as what we thought was excuses at the time, actually there was some substance behind it, and it's paying dividends now, you know. So this is kind of the only path I see. Like now, a really, really difficult period. So whatever manager we get in, we should have almost an attitude that we should be okay with him going away once we're ready to kind of do something real again. And then I do think the Tottenham way and the way to maybe create a little bit of unification again is a more project-based approach. But I would say then we need then to also do the project at another level. Our scouting needs now to become the best in the league, and our you know, even our project manager needs to then be the best we can get in the world at that, you know. It should be an Nagelsmann, it should be so on, you know, and we're not going to get that at this point in time, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, like you see, like Chelsea, who've sacked Potter, and they're immediately, you know, scheduling interviews and starting their managerial process. And we're just kind of, it seems to me like Tottenham at the moment just seem to be twiddling their thumbs, just awaiting to hear the Paratici news, awaiting to hear the appeal, not really sure what direction we're going to go in. And it seems to me as well, I don't know whether Tottenham feel like they can't attract a manager right now, or they just simply can't attract a manager right now. But either way, it's like we're in this state of of like limbo where other clubs like Chelsea are acting very fast to appoint a new manager and looking, even though they got an interim right now, they're making moves to try and do something. Yet we're just like waiting to see what happens while our managerial targets probably get swept up by other teams, and we're gonna like either see who's left or again, like I read a whole article from The Athletic about 2 years ago, and it was about how Spurs just weren't decisive in their managerial search, and their indecision led to a lot of the targets either declining them or getting gobbled up by other teams, and the indecision rumbled on for what was it, nearly 3 months, and we ended up with Nuno Espirito Santo. So I mean, how do we avoid that situation happening again? I mean, is it doomed to happen again?
I think we could get even worse this time around. You know, I certainly don't hope so, but I really do think like every manager, like every agent/manager WhatsApp group out there and all of that, like Tottenham are toxic now. You should not touch Tottenham if you wanna, and even for players as well, you know. And they're right, you know, and we just have to look at that as there's no way around clearing out and like trying to create a clean slate, you know. But I would also say, like in terms of the length and what caliber of manager we're gonna get and stuff like that, it's even if we get lucky in that manner, nothing else is going to fit that. Nothing else will have a clear direction and so on, you know. So even if we bribe, you know, I could see, for example, a Rafa coming in, which I would personally hate, you know. I really don't like, but somebody that has proven himself,
back
like
to the
like
Tottenham DNA people.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I could see that, you know, simply because it's a big enough name for Levy, thinking I'll have some cover by that. And Rafa is on the ascendancy or on the descendancy, and it sees a big paycheck, maybe one of the last ones I can get, you know, I'll take it, do my 2 years and stuff like that. That's one I can see, you know, but I can also see maybe some like a Potter or something, a project manager out of favor or not the hottest commodity come in. But that's going to be so painful. That's going to be such a failure, guys, at this point in time. We have no infrastructure to do a project as now. You know, our infrastructure was Paul Mitchell and Potts. That was the infrastructure that we had. They're not there. There's nothing comparable to the miracles that they pulled out in terms of building a squad and all of that. So, you know, yeah, like I struggle. Like I'm really apprehensive about what's coming up for us, guys. You know, I've joked about it. I said, you're gonna dream about the days of Nuno. It's gonna be like the sweet days of Nuno, you know. But I really easily can see a scenario. Like I'm convinced that Kane is going this summer. I was convinced with the Man City stuff, and of course, if he had half a chance to go, he would have been gone. You know, I don't think even a big name manager like maybe Potts, and a huge budget from Levy, then maybe we could keep him. But that's not coming, guys. And Levy didn't want Eriksen back in, even though it was a bargain and Eriksen wanted to come. Levy doesn't want to have Potts back in for the same reason. Levy will have to face his prior deeds with these guys that he doesn't want to do that. He just wants that to disappear and try and go on in another direction, you know. So I don't have too much belief in Potts coming back under Levy, which is fine by me because I want Potts back, but I want him after the Levy era back. So that would be the dream scenario for me, you know. So, but
it's
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting what the views are on Poch and Levy, because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, they don't want Poch back under Levy. Poch will never come back under Levy." But then on the flip side of it, we're hearing that, you know, they're still very close. They still speak all the time and blah blah blah. When he was here, they used to go on holidays.
Yeah, but that I feel that's a failing from Potts, to be honest. You know, I think that's a bit of a problem. They should, of course, be courteous and have a good relationship and like each other and all of that, but they shouldn't be mates in my view. I don't think it could be a great thing for another club, but because of our club, because of how Levy is and so on, it has been to the detriment of Potts' work, not to the detriment of Levy's work, So having more distance, having more kind of professional arrangement between them, I think would definitely be better. That's what I'm fear is actually Potts would come back, all the feel good, all of that, and then just Levy even has an easier time dealing with Potts, and not serving his need, So that's my biggest fear actually. So, but yeah, like I say, like for me, Potts, in terms of knowing what this club needs and how to do it, there's probably no person in the world that knows it better than Potts. But he's not gonna get the tools to do it. I think, like nobody else has gotten it. It's not like Mourinho didn't know. It's not like Conte didn't know. It's not like we don't know. Ben, you could walk in there. Sim, you could walk in there and fix the club seriously if you got the money. And I'm not even kidding. Whether it be champion, what's it called, championship manager, or what the computer game you play, Ben, is called, or FIFA career mode, or whatever. We are expert enough in terms of the big issues, all of us if we had a check that would fit the need, we could walk in there and do a lot of good, So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to get going. It takes Levy stepping out of the way and handing the resources to get something done, So.
Ariane, any comments from you before we move on?
No, I think he's nailed it. I mean, like I said in the very beginning, all of us know what the problem has been. Like, there's just no reason for me to, like, we all know the problem's Levy. So I'll leave it at that, because, I could say this player's a problem, this coaching staff is a problem, this coach is a problem, but it's, at the end of the day, all of that comes back down to Levy.
Yeah.
Every single.
It makes for a dead boring conversation, guy. I'm sorry. It makes for repetitive, tedious content. But the thing is, like I said before, please somebody show me a path to success that doesn't involve dealing with the Levy issue. And I have never seen it since Potts left. And it just gets more and more blocked, if anything. So.
There's actually this few people in the comments have asked me to mention it, so I will mention it. But there's actually this petition going around to remove Daniel Levy as chairman, which I doubt it's gonna, nothing's gonna come of it. But apparently, at the moment, it's nearly 10,000 signatures on that petition.
I signed it earlier today, but there's actually 3 petitions going, which is a little bit of a problem also, you should
the organisation of this fan base is worse than the organisation of this club.
That's classic Enoch.
I signed them all of them, but it would be more effective with just one petition. But
I think there's one that has like far more than the others, to be fair, though. So.
Yeah. I think that's the one they're referring to now, right? The 10,000.
The problem is everyone wants to be that guy to make the petition, or that guy to organise this, or it's like too many egos going.
How many signatures do they need?
Need to what?
I don't know. Is it a target? Is there a target?
It's an awareness thing, dude. Because you can get, I think, to 1 million signatures. There's no legal binding that Levy's gonna have to go.
Petitions, they don't mean anything. These petitions.
Yeah, they don't mean anything.
No, but still.
But it sends a signal. All it does is send a message.
Well, let Jory speak.
Exactly. It's a soundbite for the media to grab onto, and that creates pressure on Levy. So don't discount it fully. I do agree. It's Levy's empire. He has a stranglehold on it. We talked about it last time, Ben. I do agree about all of that, but we should still just do our thing and do it.
I agree.
If we make this an expectation of having to get results here and now, then we'll give up. Then we should just settle in and keep on point, and eventually good sense will win out. We have to believe in that. So.
I will tell you one thing in terms of Levy and Enoch. This is probably the biggest number I've ever seen attached to the Levy out movement or an Enoch out movement. So I guess that's positive in some way.
the same with the Conte rant. I mean, it opened a lot of eyes from fence sitters and even leaving inners. So even though it's like I saw Coach Stell do a video, and I agree. What people don't understand often with people like Stell and Brian Daigle and even myself and stuff like that is that we're burning the midnight oil here, guys. It's not for free to go against the manager. Now we get Conte out. Now we don't have a Conte. We've wasted Son and Kane's career on bullshit like this. We've wasted the tenure of one of the greatest managers of all time with Mourinho and now Conte, and one of the greatest up-and-coming managers, stuff like this. It's not without cost and penalty. So really, have some, put yourself to the test with your opinions. Okay, if you don't want the manager and you think that's the problem, that's fine. That's fine. I think Arian has a sophisticated view on it with seeing a much larger picture. I think there's a lot of Levy-outers that have a very simplistic and toxic and completely unhelpful view on it, as do the Levy-inners, many of them, But for me, it's important to understand the urgency. We won't have this brand. We won't have these players. We won't have it, so on. And I think now we just had a serious kind of beat down to our brand and to who we are in the world of football. We are a much lesser club after the Southampton game than before the Southampton game, and not to talk of the Poch era, of course, which is important to keep bringing up because this was the way forward. We squander it, and since then we've been squandering and wasting our resources, our players, and our momentum. And now our fans, my best friend who's kept me through the years informed about Tottenham when I wasn't following Tottenham, but still kind of a Tottenham fan. He was all in and kept me kind of in the loop on things, He's kind of like, okay, I think this is the time to simply stop watching football. That's why he is. Like, I can't do any more of this. I've done this my whole life. It's been a constant source of negativity with very few ups, and I'm not doing this anymore, And I think, unfortunately, too many of the real hardcore long-time fans are really there at this moment, So yeah.
It's mad. I'm actually got the petition here. I'm actually watching the things because since we last spoke about it, it's gone up by about 100.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's to do with the stream or it's just gaining traction on social media. But look, let's move on to the last topic of the day, and it's going to be surrounding Harry Kane and that sending off on Monday night. There's been a lot of abuse coming Harry Kane's ways, calling him a cheat, calling him over the top things from pundits, from fans on social media. Obviously, Spurs fans have leapt to the defense of Harry Kane as we usually would. But we'll start with you, Ariane. Did Harry Kane cheat by going down the way he did against Everton?
I could name you about 97 different dives off the top of my head alone that were a million times worse than what Harry Kane got clawed in the face. And here's the thing with going down. If Harry Kane didn't go down, Doucouré might have gotten a yellow. And VAR wouldn't have looked at it. That's the fact. As a player, you have to go down, right? Because the way these refs are also, they would not have even, they just wouldn't have. You have to make a meal of it. And there's one thing making a meal of nothing, and there's one thing to bring attention to what was a red card offense. If Harry Kane had taken a yellow card offense and made it a red by going down and making a meal of it, fine, I can sit down and say, yeah, that was a little bit scummy. But he didn't do that. He got clawed in the face for, I don't even know what the whole fight was with Doucouré, just some challenge or whatever. And
I think Doucouré, he hit the ball into someone and then Doucouré got angry.
And yeah, that's just a red card. And we were like, oh, well, it's a red card, but he shouldn't have gone down. Well, if he didn't go down, he wouldn't have gotten the red card, so there wouldn't have been justice. And that's a fact. We know that as Tottenham fans, that just wouldn't have happened because the ref wouldn't have seen it, the VAR wouldn't have checked it, nothing would have happened. And I can, where's outrage for when, oh my God, I'm throwing it back here, but this still pisses me off, even though it wasn't really that deep because we won the game anyway. Sheffield United away. Was it away? Was it or was it at home? Doesn't matter. And Lo Celso got like stomped in the face. Does anyone remember that? Lo Celso got stomped in the face by one of the. You look down, something in the face, nothing. But that's a foul here. Let's talk about dive. Arsenal this season. I'm gonna use Arsenal because I hate them, obviously, even though they do deserve their league position. What was it? Gabriel Jesus' dive against Liverpool. We all remember that. He got nicked in his sole of his foot, and he went down like he had just been sniped. Even this week, he got touched in the knee, and he went down and got a penalty. Where is the mention of that? Where is the it's a penalty?
Only in that game alone, Damari Gray took a dirty dive. In that game alone, Damari Gray took a dive.
Exactly, with no touch at all, actually.
Yeah.
So in the penalty box as well. So yeah, I mean, for me,
I don't even.
Yeah, like I would say, I would ask you guys if Kane doesn't fall down, is it a red card?
I think it is, but for me, I think that it was a red card.
I do believe any hitting of the face is a red card, a straight red card. That's
especially
the rule.
Like Dembele got a 6-game ban for doing something similar.
Yeah. So but I would say like the rule is a minimum of a straight red card if there's any physical hitting of the face or something like that, and so it's a red card. So there's nothing to be cheated. Did he overact? Did he dive afterwards? Maybe that's on players to also judge that situation, whether it's needed to create the attention around it, whatever. Is Harry Kane really good at trapping players into free kicks and stuff like that? Yes, masterful at that. But he's certainly no Bruno or Rashford or any of these dive kings in the league. He's quite average in that regard. I think this one, yes. I think, to be honest, what probably made people react so strongly is that we're not used to seeing Kane go to this extent of theatrics, which he did give it a little bit extra this time for sure, So and that's we're used to Kane being so by the book and the way things are supposed to be and so on, So it was a little bit unusual seeing him doing that, but for it to be cheating, he should have gotten a judgment that's not right. And he got the right judgment, so there's no talk of cheating, If he stood there and laughed in his face, it's still a red card. The question becomes then, would the referee realize this, what happened and the seriousness of the situation? Exactly. Maybe not. So Kane doesn't chance it. He goes down, as you should do, of course, every time.
There was a study done when during the World Cup, and it was about social media abuse, and it researched which Premier League player gets the most abuse online from accounts. And the study found that Harry Kane was the player who is the most abused player in the Premier League. Now, this is the England captain, record England goal scorer, has done pretty. This is a guy who isn't caught like cheating on his wife or at the club at 3 a.m. lying drunk. Role model. Why is he so hated? Why do accounts always fuel hate from a player like Harry Kane? And when things like this come up, like he's vilified for being the villain of the piece, when Doucouré, no one talks about Doucouré clawing him in the face or anything like that. He's a hero apparently, but Kane for getting the referee to make the right decision, he's the villain. And for the last few years, there's been a clear pattern of Kane just being vilified by fans, especially English fans. Why do you think that is?
But you know what, Sim? It's not just fans as well. It's the media. It's the media as well. Because name me one other player that has been forced to watch a potential
God.
dive in a post-match interview after the game. I mean, that was ridiculous what they had to put Harry Kane through in that post-match interview. I mean, there's been so many bigger divers in the Premier League that haven't been even talked about. It's crazy.
But why isn't he loved? Like, he's England captain, role model professional, top England goal scorer. Why isn't he loved?
Yeah.
I mean,
look.
Yeah, sorry, Aaron, you go.
Yeah, because like I'm an American, right? I'm not English, and for me, like I don't really support the U.S. men's national team because I support a different national team. But I see here people love all of the United States. Like, there's not really a player here that people just hate, especially the captain Pulisic, who's been not fantastic, but he's fucking adored, right? And you have literally the greatest striker on the planet right now, role model, like you said, nothing done right. In my mind, I'm like, English fans should be all over this guy. I don't really understand it as like an outsider looking in. What is all the hate about?
Ariane, this is
confused me a lot, and it's not even like it's not from Arsenal fans, right?
This
It's
is
from
what we
literally
do in
your
this
own
country.
like your own media outlets, your own news. I don't understand.
I don't understand it either.
Like,
I've lived in this
what I would
country.
give to have Gabriel Jesus watch back his dives? Do you have any idea what I'd give to watch like Jesus watch back his dives, Nketiah watch back his dive against us last season in that 3-0 win? Like, I would give the world just to see one of them do that. But instead, Harry Kane goes down. I don't even remember the challenge, and I don't frankly care because it probably wasn't nearly as bad as what like Jesus did against Liverpool, and that yielded a result. By the way, they won the game because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't understand it either, but it's what we do in this country. It's what the media like to do in this country. They did it to Bex. They did it to Rooney. They're doing it to Kane. They've done it to others in the past. I mean...
Yeah, but Rooney had
I
things
think
to criticise.
Yeah,
Kane, there's nothing to criticise with
but
Kane.
why do the media feel like they need to do that to England captains and England national team as well, going into every national tournament? There's no need
I
for
think I understand it, guys, but I don't agree with it at all. But it is exactly this unique English dynamic, you know, where allegiances are always club first and country second. But then you take now all of the fans that have watched Kane murder their team throughout the years, and now their hopes are riding on Kane's shoulders to put in that winner in the semifinal and whatever. And and then they're in his camp as long as it's going all right. Soon as it goes sour, the hate and vitriol from the Premier League comes back into it, you know, and that takes over, you know. And I do really, I mean, I've seen players talk about the level of cohesion always being less in the English squad. I don't think this is true now of this generation. Historically has been less than in other national teams because of their allegiance to their clubs, you know, because of their club relationships, you know, and so it's very uniquely English. There's so many things that are uniquely English. It's really weird, you know. You could go on and on about all kinds of unique English things. You know, how come we have by far the richest league in the world, and we've got refereeing that hardly can keep up to Icelandic standards, you know, let alone the biggest and richest league in the world, you know. And how come, you know, like I've talked about Tottenham being maybe the most English club, and the manners and niceness and stuff like that, which we all love and is important about English culture. It's one of the things that made the United Kingdom the great place that it is. But there's a backside to it, which is this passion, this mentality, and so on, you know. And I think in terms of, you know, even though I hate Arsenal fans here in Iceland, and I believe me, I'm surrounded by the fuckers all the time. It's nothing like actually being in the neighborhood, being, you know, or being on the south side of Manchester, and like whatever the divides are in the country. And I think as soon as things start going sour with the national team, these allegiances come front and center, you know. But I also think there's also another element, because he is such a squeaky clean, nice family guy, you know. I also think that in general provokes more hate in people often, you know, which is like Kane maybe like when you have a nice stand-up citizen, and you're maybe not doing the best things in your life. You're maybe not as squeaky clean and as well living as such a person. The reflection of him triggers you. I can give an example. Like you see it, for example, often I've seen it in my line of work. The few times that I've seen, for example, a very Christian person working in film or stuff like that, and most of the film crew are if not drunks, then they're former drunks or whatever, and like it's a almost kind of like a pirate lifestyle. So and I've seen situations where this upstanding Christian moral person really triggers the hell out of a lot of people without even doing anything, simply by not partaking in the various stuff. And I think people can feel that way about Kane, especially. It's kind of like, oh, he thinks he's better than us, Look at that, and then they
want to find an excuse to basically point and say, see, he's not so perfect. Basically.
Exactly. Look, that guy, he's not as honest. He's not this stand-up. Look at how and like Mane has had a lot of that hate, I think, as well, because Mane was quite good at diving, to be honest, so he definitely did. We know of one situation, for example, that we can point to, but I also think the thing about Mane being this very religious, morally projecting guy, without trying to put it on to other people, but just everybody knowing that he's not just a geezer like anybody else, that kind of triggers a lot of the fan base, and also, to be honest, guys, I just think like in the bad moments, we really shouldn't take it too seriously, even though it's bad. I'm not saying it's not bad, but people just lose their shit so much, and it's so many years of frustration and disappointment that maybe gets released in one moment, one missed penalty and stuff like that, so I try to not be too harsh on the people, even though I absolutely condemn it. I've said it with our squad, for example, like, what's the point of getting on the back of individual players? They're just who they are, If they're not good enough, we should be looking at Levy. Why is Levy not providing us with better players, So
100% spot on. And I've made that argument for Eric Dyer multiple times. I hear people around me calling Eric Dyer this, calling Eric Dyer that. I was like, why are you getting angry at Eric Dyer? I mean, that's what Eric Dyer is. Get angry at the people that are keeping him at this club.
Yeah, I mean,
so Kane gets hate because of Levy. That's why. I knew it.
Great way to spin it back. That was sensational.
I mean, I also don't think we should be putting them into like we shouldn't be sheltering them either. I mean, talking to Eric Dyer, I've called him a few things through the years.
So have I, to be honest.
That's fine for me. That's okay. Maybe I'm just justifying myself. But when it gets like with Emerson earlier this year and stuff like that, that's really not okay in my book, for so many reasons. When it basically gets to be bullying, like sustained bullying, and that's a different kettle, But I do think they're grown boys, and they should hear once in a while that it's not good enough, and they should just take those nicknames that they get along the way as well.
It's got philosophical so quickly.
Yeah, we can safely say, look, you can bully Harry Kane off the pitch all you want, but just be prepared to be bullied on the pitch, and that's what we'll leave it to.
Exactly, and that's why Harry Kane, once again, another part of Harry Kane that's outstanding is that you can exactly attack him like this, and he will not engage. He will make his feet talk, and that's what's needed in all of life. It's needed a lot more in this club, but don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. That's my advice, at least.
Absolutely. But I think we'll end it there, guys. So thank you very much for coming on, Ariane, Jory. Thank you so much for coming on to your first panel show. Thank you. Hopefully we'll be able to invite you back soon. But that's all we have
with
time
less
for
grainy video.
today. Say that again, Ariane?
Hopefully with less grainy video.
Yeah,
Let's
tell me about
yeah,
it.
we'll work on it.
Tell me about it. But yeah, look, it's been a great show as always. Probably the longest panel that we've ever done, nearly 2 hours today.
Wow.
So big up to everyone in the comments. Much love to you all, and we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.